You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Jesse Landers.
Oh yeah, how's it going? Nice to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Pumped up guest. I like it. Jesse, tell me a little bit about yourself and if you want, what you do professionally.
Yeah, I'm in news. I grew up on the East Coast in New York, and now I'm out on the West Coast in California, which was a realized dream that I had from ever since I was a kid. So we can get into that at some point.
That's the whole East Coast lifestyle. I'm on the East Coast right now, and everybody always talks about moving to like California or Hollywood. I'm
Yep.
like, dude, I just want to live out in the mountains somewhere where nobody can bother me.
You must be a snowboarder then.
I've been snowboarding and I've hurt myself pretty bad, but it's fun.
Okay, I was gonna say that's I mean I snowboard too, and that's sort of the mentality I like, where it's like, yeah, go out to the mountains, get away from people for a bit.
Dude, I love the smell. Like when I walk out my front porch, I'm in Ocean City, Maryland. So as soon as I walk out onto my front porch, I'm getting hit with a wave of salt water. So it's like you're smelling all of it. You're like, oh, this is beautiful. But I'm like, I want to smell the trees, man. I want to freaking see yellow snow and all that shit that people used to warn me about when I was a kid.
I got enough of the snow and the trees and stuff. Right before I came out here to California, I was going to school up in Plattsburgh, New York, right across from Burlington, Vermont. So pretty much like New York right before you hit Canada.
But that's not even the good cold either. In New York, that's like the brutal cold. Like people are coughing
Yeah.
up lungs while smoking another cigarette. You're just sitting there like,
It's where you got to drink to survive just the temperatures, you know.
it's not one of those movie moments where you see Bambi and it's like you see the snow just drip off a pine tree. It's more like you just see people getting punched in the face and ordering pastrami sandwiches.
Bambi's gonna be a fucking icicle. It's like what you're gonna see up in that area. So yeah, I had enough of that, and I was like, I need a change. And within my company, like I said, I started working for news, and I've always been into like media, video production, editing, audio, that kind of stuff, and podcasting. Which I also have my own podcast, American Slacker Podcast.
Yeah, plug that sucker in there. Plug it.
Yeah, I'm wearing one of our shirts here. Me and my co-host and best friend Matt Gertz, we have been doing this podcast since 2016, bi-coastally, just over the internet. It's been a labor of love, and yeah, I always got some little media project going on.
It was weird because even though if you have like 11,000, 20,000, or like 30,000 followers, there's like still to some people you're like new. I mean, I had somebody reach out to me like, you should interview this band. I'm like, sure. Then I reach out to their page and I noticed they have like 1 million something fans. I'm like,
Oh wow.
hold on a second. Like, who are these guys? And apparently they're pretty popular, but it's not my type of music, so I don't listen to it. So it's just like I'll reach out to them. It's just a normal thing. It's like when you meet a celebrity, each celebrity is going to be somebody's favorite. But like, I had a few friends recommend your guys' podcast, Comic
Oh, nice.
Syndicate. I'll give him a plug, and then Brad Bumley from the Coffee Buzz podcast.
Sweet.
They followed you, and they were like, you should hit up this guy. They do some crazy topics. And I'm like, so what exactly, when we say news, what do we mean by news here? Besides the video editing part, we talking about like, you're listening to Channel 5 News. Here's Tom with the weather.
Pretty much. I've done like local. I've worked at 3 different stations, all at the like local capacity. So I'm not like, I don't work at CNN or anything. I'm not doing the national stuff that's seen across the board.
With the stock markets at the bottom where you're like, everything's fucking up and down. I don't know where to go.
Well, it's coronavirus right now, right? That's the hot topic.
I had said a month before all this happened, before even it was even found in China, that the toilet paper stock market is probably the best one to invest in because it never goes up or down. And I bet you right now it's so far up, it's probably busted through the roof.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, and it's such a weird like commodity to be hoarding too. I wouldn't have expected that. Kudos to you for predicting the toilet paper,
It's not the first thing though. I've said so many things that end up happening later. I feel like I'm foretelling things. I really wish $1 million or Bob Barker would be on my doorstep in like the next 5 minutes. If that happens, that would be awesome.
Throw some positive predictions my way. I could use some fucking some money, some good karma,
No problems in the world. Holy crap, man. That would
Yeah,
be
right.
perfect.
But no, it's back to what you were asking. You know, I've worked in local news at like smaller stations doing. I started as a production assistant, which was basically running the teleprompter, pointing the cameras in the studio, printing out scripts, and getting people coffee.
Do you prefer
To
that over the being the face person for the news channel?
Well, actually, so I'm on the behind the camera capacity. They never put this in front of
That's
the
what I'm
camera.
saying. Why don't you put why are you afraid of being on actual camera? Because like I did communication arts in school and we had to get and do like the morning news or whatever it was for school. They always put the handsome or beautiful people up front. I'm like, he's basically fucking Ryan Reynolds. Like that's why he's up on screen and I'm always
on a
sitting in the
good
back.
on a good day, But the I don't know, I always I get a little nervous in front of the camera. Like what we're doing right now, I don't mind because it's more freeform. I don't have to censor myself. I think that's one of the biggest things is like I grew up in a house with a mom who had a mouth like a sailor.
That's what people say to me. They're like, "Why do you cuss so much?" I'm like, "I curse in my everyday life." Like my grandma will listen to my podcast and be like, "You curse a lot." I'm like, "Yeah, I drop. That's how I normally talk." She's like, "You never do it around me." I was like, "Cause you don't drop the word fuck when you're eating grandma's pancakes. It just doesn't happen."
Right. I mean, I have a saying, I worked before I worked in media, I worked at a summer camp for over 10 years consecutively. And they have camp appropriate and camp inappropriate. So, there's time for camp appropriate language and there's time for camp inappropriate
Okay.
language. You don't want to be cursing in front of the little 5-year-olds.
Thank you for clarifying that. Because when we
Yeah.
talk about camp, I start to think of all the movies I've seen where somebody's, getting inappropriately, I guess, exposed. I would
Oh
say.
God, no. See, this was not a sleepaway camp. I think that's where all those antics go on.
Now, look, to figure that they wouldn't put me on camera, I guess, because I'm too ugly, but so here's a picture of me next to Tom Holland, and I want you to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, you got definitely a Tom Holland look going on, man. You could be a Spider-Man.
There's so many episodes that you could find on this podcast. I think like 3 way back in the day when that was first a giant thing. My buddy Josiah's from Comic Syndicate threw that one out there, but he put it up on Twitter and it got like 5,000 retweets. And I would
Oh
ask
wow.
a guest when they came on, I would be like, "Do you think I look like Tom Holland?" People are like, "No," and then I show the picture and like, "Yeah," and I'm like,
See, yeah, with the picture, it definitely helps because I mean, I don't know how big Spider-Man fans there are out there. I know who Tom Holland is.
"Now the
My,
real Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire."
I don't know about see the real Spider-Man to me is an animated character that was on in the
Okay,
'90s
I
while I
get it.
was eating cereal.
That's perfect. For me, he's the Xbox game, the original one where you could just jump around swinging and saving people. I don't know
I
how
played.
grandma got on top of the skyscraper, but she got up there.
I played that, or I don't know if it was the same one, but on GameCube. Yeah, I remember an old Spider-Man game. Damn, dude, taking me back. I got real mad when they didn't put out the new one for Xbox because I don't got a PlayStation.
So when we talk about like typical things, like maybe in your workforce, like don't you see as the kind of the best job to get is probably the producing part because it's just kind of doing what you know. I mean, I feel like there's some people kind of relying on you to be able to get your stuff done, but you already know how to work with technology in such a way. Like I feel like when the camera's on you, for instance, if you fuck up, it's there, it's live, it's on thing. Because I remember trying to read the morning announcements and I said fuck when I forgot because it's like it says your first, it doesn't say you like me, it wouldn't say my first and last name, but it would say first name, last name. And I would sit there and be like, "You're listening to the morning announcements with and I like stopped and I was like,
That's me.
Robertson, that's my last name. And then everyone's like, "You forgot your fucking last name." I was like, it's hard to input the words in there when the screen's moving. You got Jimmy over there. Where'd he get the yo-yo? I don't know.
You're getting a Ron Burgundy moment going on. Who put a fucking question mark on the teleprompter?
It's like you see like in Scary Movie where they were typing up the thing to put on the prompter. Like, "I've been banging his wife for 10 years after I've been cleaning up for Mr. Jenkins for 25. It's like,
Right?
damn.
Don't want to piss off that teleprompter guy. But yeah, in terms of I definitely have more creative control in say like my podcast and being the face of that, doing like my YouTube with my co-host. We can pretty much decide exactly how the format goes for that and what we want to do. Like we just did a crazy my April Fool's Day episode that we put out on April Fool's, where every news story we read on our show was completely written by us. We did fake promos. We wrote four fake songs for 2 fake bands, and and completely tried to pull one over on our audience as a giant like Andy Kaufman style joke.
Did anybody fall for it?
That's the thing with podcasting, man. I've been almost wanting to put it out in our group and saying like, so any thoughts on the April Fool's episode? Because that was an idea I had since January.
It's like you want to hear feedback, but you never really do. But like you can still tell who's listening. It's like you see the listens go up. You're just like, all right, is anybody gonna reach out? I would love for a fan to reach out. I had a fan send me a picture of my shirt, like a merch shirt I just made as an idea,
Oh,
as like
cool.
as kind of like a joke. And I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, like it hit me with that realistic thing, probably that you can probably understand. Like when you start to see like a lot of views on something, it's like, fuck, we created something and it's going. Like that's why I'm so pro podcaster. I don't think a podcast is 2 minutes. I've seen those. I don't like those, especially when they try and glorify like I'm the best podcaster in all of humankind. I'm like,
Right.
probably not. I
It's
think
like, Brett, show me that.
yeah, it's
Don't
like
tell me that.
the people want to listen to a show. If you make a podcast that's just nothing but comedies that you can crack jokes on, you're going to get a good amount of audience. And then same thing with horror. If you start a horror or true crime podcast, you're
Oh,
immediately
yeah.
getting fans like crazy. I had someone that was way under me and now he's catching up to me in followers. But mine's
Oh, yeah.
conversations with people. So it's like they're sometimes can turn into an interview. They can sometimes just randomly go off on wherever. And that's where like you just find people that are listening and kind of want to know what the world's doing. Like when you saw People Are Awesome or something on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
even though I try and structure off Joe Rogan, except I'm not reaching out to Elon Musk because I don't like that super truck bullshit.
Well, and you're not giving away elk meat. That's where you're going wrong.
I don't have elk. I live in a beach town. I can get you crabs. Let me tell you about a
Okay.
crab feast. That's
Crab
a
meat.
podcast. Look up Crab Feast with Ryan Sickler. It turned into the Honeydew. Dude, that podcast is everybody's bad stories, and it's 2 comedians cracking joke on it.
Really? Okay, I'll have to give that one a whirl.
I'll send you this episode you gotta look up. I mentioned it to another person and he looked it up. And he sent me a message back going, "Holy fuck!" So this dude took a salvia trip, and it's 2 episodes long. It was 2 hours each episode. He explained he lived a life in Alaska for like 20 something years, but it was only 20 seconds in real time. Like it's
Oh
crazy.
yeah, his brain slowed the fuck down.
Yeah. Like that drug and Judge or whatever it is, Judge
Or
Dredd.
Inception, where you're like a dream within a dream and everything's slowing down.
If Leonardo DiCaprio's there, I'll take it.
It's like I was a company man for 80 years at a tire factory, and now I'm back here. I don't know what to do with myself.
That's what he said. He was like, I worked at an apple orchard. Everyone knew me, and I was the manager, and I managed that thing for 4 years, and I didn't give a shit until the 4th year in, where I started being like, I guess this is my life now. And I'm like,
It's a pretty sweet life. I take that. It sounds calm.
well, for the first 4 years, he knew he was on salvia. He's like, this is all fake. My brain's just creating this. And then he was checking the doctor's drawers and all these stuffs because what happened was his brain threw him on a boat and said he got knocked unconscious.
Okay.
And then he lost some of his memory. And that's why he woke up like that. And his friends brought him to the doctor and he's checking all the drawers and everything, like all the little notepads you would think wouldn't have anything on it or something. They were all perfectly filled out. Like that made me think of if you go into a coma, does your brain create that false thing and literally go straight into detail to make sure you don't realize that you're in a coma?
Yeah, it's like almost your brainwaves messing with you and giving you sort of false dreams. And I'm not a doctor, but I mean, like I smoke a lot of weed and I don't dream at all. And that's the way I prefer it because I don't want to fucking star in Inception when I'm trying to take a rest. So I'd assume like if you're in a coma, yeah, after a while, your brain's going to start making shit up. And
You don't really dream?
no, I try not to.
I didn't know that was something you can try not to do. I'm an insomniac, so like I barely get sleep, but when I get like I'll get a good 30 minutes.
Mhm.
That 30 minutes feels like 20 something hours. Like I'll wake
Yeah.
up like fucking, where am I? Where am I? And I'll like be putting on a shirt for work or something. Like my mom's like, you just got home. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm tripping right now. I got drool all over the side of my face.
Yeah, lack of sleep will do that to you. I mean, I only do like what, 6 hours, I think, 7 hours max, like a night and stuff. Cause I with news, I work like really weird hours. But yeah, I mean, I've had injuries like throughout my body from snowboarding, sports, all that kind of stuff. And with sleep, cannabis definitely helps in terms of that. And yeah, a side effect of that is you don't really have dreams if you get stoned before you go to bed. So
I've had that experience. I get so stoned I try and go to bed to make sure I'm not stoned anymore.
yeah, I mean that's a good way to end it too. I mean that's the worst case scenario. You're not gonna wake up with a hangover at least.
Every experience I've ever had with marijuana has been a bad one where you get too high to the point where you're like, I don't know how to fucking breathe right now. I don't know how
Yeah,
to function. My eyelids
that
won't close.
that's not gonna leave you with a good taste in your mouth if you want to put it that way.
Especially when you're eating chips while high. I've never ever experienced a nightmare before, but that's probably the closest I can tell you about a nightmare. The crunching sound, dude, my brain thought it was glass, and then I was tripping balls.
Yeah, that's the you it sounds like you're in that level where all you can do is like breathe and like barely keep your eyes open.
I got locked in the bathroom for 50 minutes.
Oh, there you go. See, I mean, the only time that ever happened to me was when I was drinking and was forced to take vodka shots during a game of asshole. But
See, that's something when you wake up you don't remember though. But when you do that when you're high, you remember it in excruciating detail. Like I
oh
couldn't
fuck,
remember everything that was running through my mind, but I remember just walking by the mirror. Like I was pissing, I pissed, and then I went to go get out of the bathroom, and I was in there probably a minute, making sure I wasn't in there too long. I was walking by. They have a mirror right where like the toilet is, so when you're taking a dump, you can see yourself in the mirror. And I was sitting there for like 45 minutes questioning, like, why would they do that? Why would they
yeah.
make it so you can stare at yourself?
Don't get on yourself about that because I would be doing the same thing, high or not. I'd be like, what was the choice in the placement of this mirror?
It makes me want to redesign somebody's house when that happens. You go into creative mode, just walk out. Like, let me tell you how you move the couch over there. It's going to be better for the lighting proportions. They're like,
Yeah,
what
the
the
feng shui is all off, clearly.
bathroom an hour, and you come out trying to Ty Pennington my house.
There was a point you had made before when we were talking about it was like meeting people or something with podcasts.
Yeah.
When we were talking about guests, I'm always surprised with like, we've done almost 200 episodes now of our show, and every other one is a guest episode. And the interesting people that you can meet through podcasting, like
You're telling me.
just
Holy
the
shit.
stories that are out there, the opinions and personalities that people have, and the way that people are living their lives so differently from each other, I think is one of the biggest takeaways that I've gotten.
Do you really do you guys try and search for just a random person, or do you guys search for someone in specific? Like I know some people that reach out like I'm gonna get a guest, I'm gonna make sure that they're like a writer, or they're like a this or they're that, or they have like published 5 comedy specials or something. I'm like, I just reach out to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's those hopeful ones that you put out there, and like your big name actors and comedians and musicians and stuff like that, and you hope that maybe they look at their DMs on Instagram, which some of them do. We've gotten responses from people that we probably wouldn't have expected to write back to us.
Same here. Howie Spangler from Ballyhoo did my
Oh
podcast.
wow,
And then what do you call it? Brant Tobler with the 31 podcast. I just reached out to him recently, and he followed me
sweet.
on Instagram. I was like, "Oh, everybody's home right now, so you're definitely checking your
Hmm.
DMs. Like it's happening."
Definitely. I mean, we just had Ian Fidance on, a comedian that my co-host had gotten to see live, and then he was like, "I want to really, get this guy on the show," and we managed to work it out and finally have him on. Mark Forward from Letterkenny, who plays the coach on that show. He was hilarious, and he was like, "Why do people even want to hear me?" And then he went on to talk about how he got like a role in the show Fargo because Jim Gaffigan backed out or something like that. So he ended up on like this crazy TV show. And we're like, that's why people want to fucking talk to you, man. Like, or want to hear you talk. Like, people have these interesting stories to tell. We talked to these folks who convert school buses, into driving like houses, and they go all around the country working
Dude,
different gigs.
that's a real
And
thing. In my
yeah,
town, at least where my grandparents live out in Milford, Delaware, there's people that sell watermelons out of a school bus that they cut to look like a pickup truck. Like, and they
okay,
just have a whole back thing of a school bus. It's the whole length of it, just
nice.
filled with watermelons all in the back, and they
Oh
sell
my
them like
god,
fucking crazy.
that's insane. They got their watermelon shit on lock. It sounds like.
They also built a school. It's not in the education system. It's just a school, like, because where my grandparents live, it's like kind of like the boondocks a little bit. It's a
You
little
hear
bit out.
banjos in the distance.
Well, it's out in the urban area, but there's no white people besides them. So it's
Mhm.
just it's like there's just a there's actually a shooting that happened behind my grandparents' house. They built a club. So the trailer park homes, like the mobile,
Yeah.
not the ones that are really on wheels, but the ones that they drop into spots like long and
Yeah.
rectangle like. Well, they put four of them together. They had one going like horizontal and then two going like vertical, and then they had one that would go like out the back, so like a little bit diagonal, so like a
Okay.
walkway, and they turned it into a club. And we're hearing all these my brother's bedroom window is by where that area is, and if you ever seen The Happening, where they're sitting in the thing and they can talk and hear what the person's saying all the way across the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you can do with my brother's room. You could hear everything that goes on at that club, like people talking and stuff. Not as clear as you'd think, but like a loud scream can happen. So we're sitting there, and next thing you know, all you hear is like you're hearing the loud music and everything. All you hear is bop, bop, bop. And then somebody scream, "Oh my God, he's dead." And then cars just hauling ass out of there. And the next thing you know, cops start rolling in. And we're like, someone just died.
Was it run by a guy named Julian and Ricky? Because that sounds like some Trailer
Yeah,
Park
it
Boys
was
shit
like
right
some
there.
Trailer Park Boys shit, I'll tell you that.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean another, person, like when you were asking how do we really go about finding or deciding on who we get, a lot of times it's not about like what a person's promoting or like how many followers they have. It's more about the story that they have to tell. Like we try to get people who have like a different life than like, just the 9 to 5 or the like. We talked to this guy named Roger Boyd who I found via a Reddit post that someone had made about something he did, tracked him down on his website, sent him an email, and then he came on the show to talk about biking all over Europe and Asia with while smoking weed and smuggling it across borders and shit.
Yeah, see, like I could do the same thing, which is it's smart to do, especially if you want to get views, because people want to hear something interesting. But like sometimes people don't think that their story's interesting, and then you're like, hold on, what a second. Like I talked to Sarah Lopido or Lopido, and I'm gonna make sure I get that name proper, but she was a woman welder, and I was just talking to her about welding, and I was like, how did you come across this? And she just goes, well, I mean, I got over the heroin addiction when I was in jail. I'm like, hold the fucking phone. What? And like
Yeah.
you had to back up, and I was like, do you feel comfortable talking about it? But like people gloss over shit like that gunshot story. It's interesting, but that's just, to me, it's like it happened when I was a kid. It's like not something very important I ever really
Right.
bring up. That was like some random thing I brought up. But like that those stories, you end up uncovering that. You're like, hold on a second, that's not normal. Like people don't do that. And then
Well, yeah, it's like what is normal too, Like with talking to all these different people, that's the thing I'm realizing is, everyone's living their lives so differently and doing it so like uniquely, I guess, in their own way. Like get addicted to heroin, go to jail and become a welder, fucking bike across Europe and smuggle weed. Like people are doing it different ways, man. Same with you and me.
how do
Yeah.
you smuggle weed on your bike unless you're putting like on the container, like in a backpack or something? Because you can't
He
shove it
said
up your ass.
he said some of the like border crossings were just literally like one dude with like a little like bar and you just show your thing and go across, and then other times it was more intense and he would just kind of like bury it within his stuff, but he was just on a bicycle and stuff. If you want to listen to it, I think it's, I want to say episode, for some reason I want to say 134 or 143, Roger Boyd, the healthy stoner as he calls himself.
What do you typically try? Like, give me a rundown of your show. Like, do you guys just try and focus on a specific topic you're thinking about during the day? Is it kind of random? Do you just choose to let it focus on your guest the whole time?
So when we do a guest episode, we definitely focus on the guest. We're talking to them about their experiences. We're more recently we're trying to talk more about how they felt and like how they feel. To sort of bring out the emotion, and that's something that's a perspective that you're not going to get anywhere else. Like if you are a rock star and you're standing on stage for your first show, and I ask you, how does that, like, what did you feel in that moment? That's something only you can tell me. So we're trying to like dig in with our guests for sure. But with our we flip flop back and forth. We have our guest interviews, and then we have our what we call regular episodes. For those, we start out with bizarre news, which is usually like a Sasquatch sighting or like someone burning down their house while trying to like kill a bee's nest.
You ever seen
Or
Dr. Drew After Dark?
no.
Dude, have you ever seen your Mom's House podcast?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so they did a podcast with Dr. Drew where they're just
Mhm.
like it's like Love Line back in the day where people would call in and they'd ask a bunch of sexual things. Like
Okay. Yeah.
for some reason, like the one I listened to today, the guy's like, when I cross my legs is the only time I can come. Like that's just a
Huh.
random thing. So he's trying to diagnose and everything. There's a video of a dude shoving a bike handlebar up his butt, and it's just on
Heyo.
the street of San Francisco, just like homeless population.
Not too far from me.
So that's out there.
Didn't know I could go get a free show.
That's your strange news on your next episode. You can toss out just
Right. And we always like to start our weird news with a little bit of weed news. That's my little line that I do. And our first story is always some sort of update about either cannabis in the world or states that may be changing a law or some sort of like a traffic stop that happened that like is being reviewed by the Supreme Court or whatever it may be. We always try and update people a little bit to just demystify weed a little bit and give people who might not be exposed to it, I guess, the perspective from someone who is.
yeah. I mean, I have family members that are all into it. It's just not for me, mostly
Yeah.
because the only time I've ever smoked was with them, and
Mhm.
they're the type that's in the morning, at
Mhm.
lunch, at dinner. Is it wearing off? Midnight snack.
Pizza
That's
on
what
a
it is.
bagel. You can
Yeah.
eat pizza and it's
Yeah, like it's basically like it's 24/7. It's never not that. And then when I try and keep up with them when I barely do it, it's like you get so plastered out of your mind where you're just like, I don't know how to start breathing again, and I'm pretty sure my car is talking to me while I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the new Little Dicky show, Dave, but he was saying the same thing in one of the episodes. They were offering him weed, and he's like, "No, if I have that right now, I'm gonna be passed out. I treat it more like a wine at the end of the day."
This song "Too High" is literally my high. That's
There you
what it
go.
was like for me. Like, you get stuck looking at the mirror, and the next thing you know, you're on the toilet just jacking it, and the next thing you know, you're just like can't even function. I'm like, that's
And then
basically
the afternoon's gone. Like,
yeah. It's like, wait a minute, did I leave those chicken tenders in the oven? I don't know.
yeah, and I mean I guess that's the biggest thing too is kind of finding that middle ground where it's like, yeah, if people are interested in it and if it helps them medicinally, cool. If they have no interest in it, sweet. Let's just, I guess, stop locking people in cages for
That's
it.
what I'm saying. I'm actually pro marijuana, even though I don't like it. I'm just saying it's not for me, but I understand where it helps people because I've seen it overcome with medical things like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all these other types of things helps. And PTSD, that's a big one. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people down here are suffering from depression. You smoke a joint or something, next thing you know, they're good. I'm like, that's way better than a pill. I had
Yeah.
some person the other day message me saying like it came from a doctor's thing. It's this doctor's thing. Trust a doctor. 4 years of
Ugh.
information went into it. I'm like, doctors aren't in the good light right now.
Yeah,
Mostly because all the articles coming out with big pharma and all that. You might want to toss that.
and the opioid epidemic in the country. I mean, that's
figure out we're
that.
running by a corrupt system.
Yeah, there's a lot of improvements that can be made because there's a lot of money being made right now off of people's health and well-being. You can see kind of with coronavirus, we're not exactly set up for the right stuff. But on our show, we don't go that deep into it, I would say. We don't we're not trying to depress people. We actually started our show in 2016 amidst the Trump Clinton election, and we were like, we need to give people like something that they can laugh at other than like rather than like going at each other's throats, which is what it felt like at that point in time. So it was really important for us to say like, we'll talk about anything except politics. Like that's the only thing we're not going to cover on our show.
Shout out to Bill Smith who did the podcast a few episodes back. He freaking hit every freaking topic that is stigmatized to ever talk about.
Oh,
I
nice.
told him that. I was like, the reason why we stigmatize it is like we let that happen. Don't let a word be stigmatized. You want to talk about a certain topic, don't argue over it. Just say okay. Just understand each other's points. And you
Yeah.
talked about religion, talked about politics, talked about government, talked about all these things he was interested in. And I just flowed with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm that type of guy. It's so easy just to have a conversation, but like even you probably know, reaching out to guests, not hearing back or something. I reach out to people and we talk about the wide variety of guests. I get people are like, why are you reaching out to me? I get the common answer like, why me? Are you trying what are you running here? Are you trying to make fun of me? It's like, no, I just
Some
want to have
sort
a
of scam.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then some person owned a farm, an actual legit mushroom farm. I reached out to her. She was like, I can give you 30 minutes. That's it. I was like, my show's an hour. And it can be longer. It can go 2-3 hours, depending on
Right.
conversation. And she goes, I can give you 30 minutes on this day. I'm like, I'm good. I don't have time that day. And she goes, well, fuck you. I don't want to be on it anyway. And then started going off. I mean, paragraph after
I think you
paragraph.
saved yourself an hour there.
I was like, damn, I need to start venting these people before I get them on here. Shit.
Yeah, I haven't gotten so much of the negative response. It's more the no response at all. If it's like not a positive one, it's kind of like we put it out there, or maybe you'll get the yeah, that'd be fun, and then you hear nothing back, and it's like, all right, I was serious, but if you aren't, then fuck it. You know, I got other people that are interested.
I mean, the wide variety of topics too. Like I saw like your recent photo you had, like it was like a chimp smoking a joint or something, and like 50 million other things going on at once. I'm like, is that the
Yeah.
April Fool's episode one?
Yes, sir.
I was like, Jesus. I was like, what do they talk about in their podcast?
Yeah, so we it's essentially structured for the regular episodes where it's just myself and Matt in 3 segments. So we have that beginning bizarre news with the weed news and like the Sasquatch stories, weird stuff like that. Then we have a suggestions segment where we're either suggesting TV, movies, music, podcasts. We used to do have like a video game segment in there where we'd talk about Xbox and stuff like that, but we found that a lot of the people listening weren't also gamers. So we kind of said, all right, we're going to move away from video games, even though that's something that me and Matt definitely love. And we're just going to stick to, you know, suggesting music, pods, movies, all that kind of stuff for people to get into. And then the end segment, we always make up a game to play. So every time
Hopscotch.
it's always, it's more like, on the April Fool's episode, we played the ABCs of fear.
Like
where
the
Matt-
ABCs of death, but with fear.
Kind of. It was like you got an A, a B, and a C fear, and I would say, what's the fear of cats? Is it A, amaxophobia, B, barophobia, or C, cynophobia?
Sinophobia.
Yes, but that's actually the fear of dogs. I don't know what the fear of cats is. So you got it right, but then I distorted my voice, and I don't know if you've ever seen, you know, Wayne's World.
Yeah.
So there's that scene where his girlfriend turns on the TV and Wayne's talking to Garth on their show, and he's talking about the leprechaun. He's like, I'm the leprechaun. And Garth's like, stop, Wayne, stop, no. That's kind of the vibe we were going for with that game. So,
I freaking love the best scene in that movie, I think, is when he's like, what are you talking about? We don't do any sponsorship. And he opens up a box of Pizza Hut and lifts it up and then it holds us. That was the funniest product placement I've ever seen in a movie, dude.
oh yeah. So we always play like some sort of like game that we make up. Matt sometimes will run what he calls Scorsese or Fugazi, where he'll give me like a movie that is either some weird obscure movie or one that he just made up off the top of his head, and I have to like suss out which one's real and which one's not. So we always try and like keep it new and fun and creative. Yeah, you know, with that last one and with the suggestions, we like to put out pods that are, you know, smaller, bands that are more niche, and like people could kind of get into that way.
I think I'm going to start creating a segment and it's going to be called Sipping Sangria in the Shower.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's like
You
fetal
got to figure out how to
position type
balance out the water sound in the background.
Yeah, it's just that's what original idea I had for this was turned into an ASMR where I was just eating like cereal in the microphone, and then like it would get that like, but it was dry, so there's no milk in there. So like you're
Okay.
eating it dry, and then you would hear like the like the cough because you just get like a Raisin Bran chip stuck in your mouth or something. Like,
Oh man, that's a skit right there.
telling you,
I ever
bro.
heard of.
I've been thinking so much about just like turning another into another podcast and just doing like comedy stuff. I get way more views, but this is just interesting because it introduces you to a wide variety of people. I mean, like from hot sauce people I've talked to, I mean, my 10th episode, the woman was a professional arm wrestling champion and she's someone I worked with. So I was like,
Oh, wow.
what? You did what? Like, did you only train one half of your body or something? She goes, yeah, I won a lot of competitions. And then she was like, and I used to do heroin. I was like, hang on. What do you mean? What do you mean? She was like,
you got
yeah.
some stories, yeah.
She was like, I do it on the weekends. It was a slice of cake. And I was like, what? No, it's not a slice of cake. That's a very big deal. She was like, if it was there, I'd do it. And I was like, this isn't fucking Coke. You can't talk about it like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you said before, people have these lives and they think it's just like, oh, whatever. But it's actually pretty interesting.
Well, some people just like they want to think it's stigmatized. Like I can't let people know I did that, and it's like let's do it. Let's laugh at it. Let's create some of the bad times. You know, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're just thinking. Remember in 8th grade when I called out Jennifer Cristalli and said, "Would you touch my pecker?" And I didn't really know what I meant. I regret that because the whole class made fun of me. It's like talk about those bad times that you always think about late at night. Let's laugh at the pain and make it go away. That's the whole point of like Ryan Sickler's podcast, the Crab Feast or the Honeydew, and it's so inspiring to do. Which I try and create my own show with it too. I let the guest feel like a host as well. I think that's important.
If you want a bad story, I got a bad story for you.
I would like to hear about it.
So I told you how I was going to school up in upstate New York in Plattsburgh, across from
Yes.
Burlington, Vermont. So I was at a party one night after coming back from downtown. I was dressed up a little bit nicer that night. I had like a suit jacket type of thing on, and had my ID and my phone in the breast pocket of this jacket. I go to the house party. I go and I take off my coat. I ask the homeowner, "Hey, can I put this behind the bar so that I don't have to carry around my coat?" Put it behind the bar. Don't think anything really of it. By the end of the party, I grab my coat. I go to leave. I get back home. I can't find my cell phone.
Did you pick up the wrong coat?
No, it was my coat. Cell phone was just gone.
Damn.
I was like a little drunk, and had walked home. It wasn't like a big town or anything like that. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to sleep. And then my girlfriend's sleeping next to me in my room, and about like a few hours later, probably like one in the morning or something, she gets a text message from me. I'm asleep next to her. So she hits me and goes, "Who the fuck are you trying to text right now?" And I go, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." She shows me her phone with texts from me coming in as she's holding it up, showing it to me. I'm like, "What the fuck is this about?" We figure out my phone had been stolen out of my pocket of my jacket. And now this guy was texting her, trying to get nude pictures from her, pretending to be me.
Did you have in your phone my girlfriend? Is that how he knew?
Yeah, I think I had her as like my love or something like that, or her name with a heart or
The
something.
emoji on it, yeah.
To signify that. So I take her phone, immediately start fucking calling my own phone, blowing it up with all caps text. "Where are you, motherfucker? I'm gonna come fucking find you, motherfucker."
Should have been like, "Yo, let's go, let's do it. Where do you want to meet?" And then you would have met him and then beat his ass.
Yeah, that probably would have been the smarter thing, but I was pretty heated at the moment. I just woke up half drunk to my shit being stolen and someone trying to get nude pictures of my girlfriend. I wanted to kick some fucking ass. So I was like,
I understand that because I've been to the movies and someone has had a bag of Sun Chips, and you're like, that's the crinkliest fucking bag you could possibly ever bring into a movie theater. So you're like,
yeah,
really?
multiply that times like 1,000. Because I wanted to roll up and I could have ripped down a motherfucker's house with my bare hands that day. He starts fucking around with me via text message and ends up giving me an address. I go to the cul-de-sac where the address is, and he says, "Oh, I put the phone in the mailbox, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, "Dude, how are you texting me from the phone if it's supposedly in the mailbox?" So I knew I was being fucked with hard. I didn't even call the cops or anything. I just called Verizon, canceled my phone. I was like, you know what? Fuck this fucker. He can just have like a dead phone for all I give a shit, cut my losses. A few weeks go by and I'm sitting up in my my apartment, and my roommate comes in and goes, "Hey Jesse, Border Patrol's in the front yard asking for you." And I was like, "Excuse me?" Because like, as we know, I'm a connoisseur of cannabis, and anytime that a federal officer is looking for you, you pretty much shit your pants immediately.
I'd shit my pants if I wasn't high.
So I walk down to the front yard. I meet this very nice gentleman. Eventually, I come to find out, who's in a Border Patrol uniform, and he goes, "Hey, hello, Mr. Landers. Have you given anyone your ID?" And actually, that day I was like looking for it because I was like, "Where the fuck is my ID? I need to go buy beer, and I don't have fucking ID." And I told him, actually, I'm looking for it. I thought I dropped it somewhere like behind my dresser or something. And he pulls it out of his pocket and shows it to me. And I go, how the fuck did you get my ID? And he goes, that's what we're trying to figure out too.
Holy shit.
So I go, well, does it have anything to do with the piece of shit scumbag that stole my fucking phone and tried to get nude pictures from my goddamn girlfriend the other day? And he goes, when was your phone stolen? I told him the date it was stolen. And he goes, yeah, I think we can put together what happened with all this now. So this motherfucker stole not only my phone, but my enhanced driver's license, tried to take it through the border into Canada, pretending to be me. He got popped by Border Patrol and now has got a felony for trying to impersonate someone and go through a federal fucking checkpoint with a stolen identification.
I just picture the guy looking at the ID and then looking at the guy, and like the dude's like I don't know,
I'll
Hispanic
tell
or
you,
something.
I
He's
saw
like
a
looking at
picture of
like,
him. Looks fucking nothing like me. So like,
this says you have
dumbass.
blue eyes, not
Yeah.
that you're 65 years old.
I'm 6'2", 210 pounds. Like, I'm a pretty fucking big dude. Like, and I'm a doofy looking motherfucker. I have headphones on right now, but these ears are like goddamn Dumbo. Like, I have pretty distinct fucking features, So this dumbass gets fucking busted. He goes to one of the New York State fucking penitentiaries. I end up getting searched every time I go into fucking Canada now because this dick stole my goddamn license and tried to be me. I went to a Tyler the Creator concert in Montreal, and they're like, "You have to pull over here. We need to do an additional search." I'm like, "God damn it, this fucker's gonna like get me flagged in Canada for the rest of my life."
I don't have anything like that insane. That is fucking nuts, but it's a good story. But
Thank you. At least I got that out of it, right?
one with so my grandparents' house I was telling you about. They have since they're out in the country, they have like a little, well, I guess you would say a giant, maybe like thick as a tree sized electric pole where that's where they get their power from. It's a little tiny, like looks like a little street light on top of it.
Okay.
It's that connects to the main power line, but it's like in the middle of their yard. So it's like the middle of the night. I'm like 14, 15 years old. And all you hear is my room is right by where the highway is. It's just one giant, not really a highway, but like our back road, you would say. It's where cars go. So occasionally you see the lights come through the blinds or whatever. One time I see the lights, and usually they pass through the blinds and it's over with. This got brighter and brighter. And I'm like, is somebody like in our fucking yard? And you can't.
UFO.
If you pull in the driveway, there's no way the lights can beam straight into my window. You have to be on the ground, like over the ditch, and then you see like the lights going right into my room. So I was like,
Gotcha. Yeah.
they're about to come right through the fucking window. And I like get up and look out. They hit the fucking pole that is out in our yard. Like the truck crashed right into it, slammed the whole front end in. I'm like, oh my God. So I get out of my room, and my grandparents' room's right there. Freaking open up the door, grandpa, underwear, tighty whitey, shotgun. I'm like, ho, ho, ho. He goes out. Next thing you know, like not even like an hour later, we have cops all over our lawn and everything. The guys that hit the thing ran away. We're thinking drunk driver. No, dude,
Probably.
illegal immigrants.
Ah.
Dude, it became a big thing. A bunch
You know
of them
that-
came down here.
That happened with like a number of years back. I was in high school, so it was probably like 05 or 04. But my friend had an S10 that he he bagged out, and he was like his truck and shit like that. Same fucking thing happened. He got wrecked into. The dude ran and found out that he didn't have insurance because he wasn't a citizen or didn't have a visa or something like that. It's like, fuck, dude.
I've never really had anybody scam me before, but I remember my great grandfather, he was like 94 years old at the time. He got a call from some dude impersonating my dad, like those fake collect calls, like, hi, is this Jane? No? Well, maybe you can help me. It's like, if you're looking for fucking Jane, I definitely can't help you, man. I'm on
Yeah,
the
right?
shitter. Stop calling me when I'm on the shitter. And well, my great grandfather got a call, and it was a dude impersonating my dad, like, hey, I'm in jail. I need you to send me $10,000 or something like that. And my dad ended up telling me about it later. He's like, yeah, and he sent the money in, and we never found the guy and never heard back from it. I'm like, damn, dude, like, I think he was trying to help. And every time we saw him before he passed away, he was like,
Yeah.
remember that time I sent you 10 grand to get you out of jail? And my dad's like, it wasn't fucking me. And then he's like,
Oh,
all right,
man.
when am I gonna get that money back? Like,
Jeez, and it's the older people who are more susceptible to that shit. My grandma, when she was still alive, she was getting targeted with the same shit. There was some like email scam going on, and my mom works as she worked as network security at IBM for a number of years, and she was like, "Stop, grandma! Like mom, this isn't some prince about to give you 10 million fucking gold or whatever."
the weird part about my great grandfather is that he's not dumb. He just can't fucking hear. So his ears were like, you had to scream at him for him to hear him. So he was probably answering the phone. He'd be like, "What
Right?
you want? Okay, send it." Like, he's not dumb or anything. It's just if he could probably
Yeah.
actually had normal hearing, could probably could tell. But there's some crazy like those types of stories, those moments. Like people can all like, "Well, holy shit," too when they listen to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's the older people like with not that they're I mean our generation's a lot more tech savvy, let's face it. So it's funny on our April Fool's episode we talked about someone getting catfished for like a ton of money. It was a made up story that we did for the April Fool's one because then we ended up switching us out with a different pair of podcasters and it's like we'd never catfish you guys. But that's like
Have you
the
ever been catfished?
no. It's funny. I do know friends of mine. Well, maybe I haven't. I never knew. But I do know friends of mine who made a fake profile and were doing that to guys in our town as a joke.
I got fucking catfished once for like I think it
Really?
was like 3 or 4 months. Hot ass girl, not anything like supermodel status, but like a girl that obviously lived in my area, but it wasn't her.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking
You could see
there's pictures of
locations and
my
shit? Yeah.
town and stuff, and obviously things
Okay.
nearby in a rival school. She apparently lived like maybe a good half hour away. So I
Okay.
kept setting up things, and I'm working. I mean, I'm an insomniac, so my brain at certain points during the day is like completely dead. So I was doing 12-hour shifts, and then going to the gym at night, working out for like 3 hours, and then going home playing Xbox and get like an hour of sleep. I mean, my breakfast was 3 20-ounce Red Bulls and a bag of Skittles on my way to work. And then when I got there, I'd kill more. And my brother's
Bro, your heart's
girlfriend,
gonna explode.
yeah, my brother's girlfriend's like, "You're gonna die." I'm like, "I'm 17 years old. I can do whatever the
I'm
fuck I
invincible.
want." Yeah, like it's like I got hit by a jet ski, so that proved it. But
Oh God.
like I got catfished for I was like a couple months, and then I was like, "Look, every time we try and hang out, we have all these plans to get set up. You fucking bail out, and the next thing you know, like dude, it's been 5, 6 years. I still get messages from that fucking account. I blocked it on so many different things, and I'm constantly getting messages from other accounts. So I'm like, block, block, block. And then my buddy hit me up and he goes, "Hey, do you know this girl? Well, I'm starting to date her, and she wanted me to make sure I checked in with you first." And I was like, "Bro, she ain't fucking real." And I
It's
just
like, have you seen her like in
holy
real
shit,
life?
did you know that to actually date somebody, you need to meet them in person? So like eventually I was just like, this is fucking weird, and stopped talking to me. Dude, I
Yeah,
still
it's
get
gonna
messages today.
he's gonna be in like a her situation where he's falling in love with his iPhone essentially.
Okay, what's your worst death experience?
Like, well, I'm still alive, so I haven't had one yet. But
Near death.
not looking
experience, I mean.
forward to. Oh, okay. So I mean, I fucked myself up a couple of times. I mean, I snowboarded a lot when I was younger.
Nail gun to the head.
Oh yeah, no, I went off a jump and it was the weirdest thing because I wasn't wearing a helmet. Kids, wear your fucking helmets. I went off the jump. I remember like blinking, like closing my eyes to blink, and when I opened my eyes again, I was on the ground and my friends had pulled me off to the side of like the landing area.
You got knocked the fuck out.
Yep. And it was just weird to lose the time between like when I jumped and like when I was on the ground. So I think I got a minor concussion that time. No near death or anything like that.
I probably had 3 that I can think of, but I don't like snowboarding. It's funny that you were mentioning snowboarding because I don't like trying to get off the lift. I'm not that good at doing it when you have one foot and you have to push off with your other one just to move around. And they never slow down the lift for me. So like as I'm getting off, that freaking lift swings around. It hits me right in the back of the head. Dude, it's clocked me so many fucking times. I'm like, you just slow it down. You see, I'm doing the same hill over and over again.
You got to give him the hands going down gesture. Like, slow it, motherfucker.
If you get fucking decked by a toddler, dude, I got decked by like an 11-year-old, man. took my freaking legs out right from under me with his board. Like he went to go because you're supposed to fall on your butt or whatever, like stick your arms out like
Yeah.
Iron Man, they say, and like try and lean back. He did that and he was going way too fast and flipped back and his legs hit. So he hit his butt on the ice and his legs came up
Okay.
and I'm facing
Yep.
downwards like at the hill and I just look to the side and I just see this board hit me right in the back, like where like right below your ass or your thighs are, fucking
Yep.
throwing me down the mountain, dude. I was like
Oh.
skidding my
Yeah, they're
face
like-
against the ground and shit.
They're like little cannonballs, those fuckers. They get going quick enough.
The reason why I hate ice skating because there's always some little kid that thinks he's better than everybody going backwards and shit. I'm like, you get your ass over here and we'll take you down.
See, I took my girlfriend snowboarding for the first time ever in her life this year, but like right before all the Corona stuff happened. We drove out to Reno through the Donner Pass and all that, which was really fucking cool to drive through. But yeah, she spent most of the day on her ass, and that was her biggest like fear, I guess, was the ski lift. I can understand it's intimidating for people, especially having 1 foot out on the snowboard.
It's just moving too many moving parts for me. I was like, hold on a second. And then like I'm a big afraid of heights guy. So when I get on the lift, I'm like, let's not fucking look down. And I went
It's rickety, a little rickety.
I went with my a couple of my uncles. So there's the one that's like my cousin, he's 6 months younger than me. So I'm with his dad. And so we're sitting on the lift and he's like, what are you afraid of heights or something? He's like, we can put this bar down if you want. And he's like reaching up to grab the bar. So the thing's starting to tilt forward. I'm like, don't fucking dare. Like, I'm probably like 16 or something at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, stop. I'm fucking scaring me out. He's like, don't be scared. And he's like trying to help, but he's also not helping. And it's like, then my other uncle is, he's my brother's dad. So me and brother are half brothers. He goes, you guys are like the whole way up there just talking shit. You guys are going to be kissing my snow. You're going to be doing all this type of shit. And like next thing you know, his second time down the mountain, he broke 3 ribs and then freaking, he was going way too fast, dude. Because what happens is it didn't snow. It didn't snow, so we didn't have fresh powder. We had ice, basically. They're man-made shit.
East Coast, Ice Coast, man.
I was busting my teeth on those bad boys up in Pennsylvania. I mean, straight up face first skidding. Because the guy that taught me, I don't know if you got lessons.
When I first started, I did a number of lessons, but then I eventually started teaching.
Damn, dude, wish you would have taught me because like it's the same thing. The reason why I still don't know how to tie my shoes. My mom was like, teach your brother how to tie your shoes. My brother's like, if you don't get it after the first try, you're never gonna learn. I'm like, well, guess what?
Man.
I never fucking learned. But
Velcro all the way, all day.
I just tuck them in, dude. Walk around. People are like, why is your lace hanging out? I'm like, I'm took that motherfucker in there. But like snowboarding, the guy didn't teach me how to stop. He taught me everything but that. And the reason why was it was a small class. A couple people did not show up. It was only me and some girl. And he wanted to go with the girl down the mountain. And so we all go up, all 3 of us, and I felt like a third fucking wheel. And next thing you know, I'm going down the mountain, and the main thing to stop is like just fall on your butt. So I'm trying to like every time I'm going super fast, like to the point where like you're getting the speed wobbles. It feels like when you're on
breaking
like,
your fucking tailbone each
so
time.
I'm like ass first and just slam your ass like down on the ground or something. But every time I started noticing, he's like, just lean back like you're Iron Man. I'm like, okay. So I would do that when I was going really fast. Flip face first. The board carves in too much to the snow. I'm freaking slamming my jaw against the ground, dude. I bit my tongue. I was like, this
scorpion down the fucking mountain, like
coming down. My freaking uncle's hitting a 1-hitter in the car, and I'm like,
there you go.
I'm like, my grandma's sitting there eating a deli sandwich, not even paying attention to what's going on. He's in the back doing it all sneakily and stuff. She's like, you hungry? I'm like, let's fucking go home, man. Let's go to the pizza spot by the hotel.
It's like my uncle's about to be hungry in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the only time I like really bailed hard was that one that I told you before, and then I did wreck into a really old man one time coming off the ski lift.
Butterscotch candy everywhere.
Yeah, right. If fucking yard sale of candy. Fucking I came down and it was a really steep like off of the ski lift, and this dude was just going right in front of us, just like like walking like it wasn't even in the motor, like he's walking across a fucking highway. Imagine. And I just hit him like a Mack truck.
That would be the best skit if he was holding hot chocolate and fucking just clock right and just flipped hot chocolate.
Boom! It's got to go slow-mo when the hit happens. But yeah, my one friend Flo, he never let me forget that. He's like, I watched you take that old man out like it was nothing.
Fucking deck that old man, dude. I've done that. Like I've seen a small, like maybe like an 11-year-old, and I was like 16, and he was in my way, and I really pushed him to save him from getting collided by me.
Yeah.
Because like you're moving so fast, and then you think like you actually got the hang of it, and then you realize you actually don't. And the next thing you know, you do something you're not supposed to do. My brother went up a rail and tried to jump off a ramp, which he wasn't ready for. Split his asshole open on the freaking rail, dude. He was like, "I got a third butt cheek now." I'm like, dude, that is not cool, man.
I was trying to teach my sister to snowboard because she had my younger sister had skied for a number of years, and then she wanted to learn to snowboard also. So we were in the park one time, and I was trying to like give a tutorial about how to hit a rail while also hitting a rail, and was going way too fucking slow. Literally, pretty much stopped on the rail and then went boom and just knocked the wind out of myself on the rail and fell from
Oh,
it.
dude, that is so painful. I've only knocked the wind out of myself, I think, once. And I was actually going to ask you this question, but this is a great segue into it. So, worst playground experience. I was in 6th grade, and they have the little glider thing where you run up, like where the monkey bars are. You run up and you hold on to it and you
And it
slide
went,
all the way down.
yeah.
Yeah. So to get up on it, you have to climb up on these rock step parts. Well, I climbed up the back of it to get a good angle on the glider, and I slipped, and there was a giant chunk of it, like the metal whatever pipe that was hanging out, went directly from my stomach into my sternum, like straight up in the middle of my stomach, like all the way up my ribs, kind of like that whole chest piece.
Damn.
Dude, I thought I died. I had the
Yeah.
wind knocked out of me. I was like, "Ugh." And it was like right in the beginning, like Robbie was first one out the door. I got detention a lot. So this was like my first recess. I was not doing anything else. Like that minute of waiting till everybody gets outside, that's where I'll get in
Yeah,
trouble.
yeah.
And that happened, dude. I remember going to the nurse, and I was in so much pain every time I breathed. My rib hurt, and they're like, "You have a bruised rib." I was like, "Fuck a playground with those hot ass metal slides and shit."
Yeah, I can't think of a playground injury so much. I know I knocked the wind out of myself one time pretty bad playing manhunt. We were actually in my backyard. It was me and a bunch of my friends. I climbed, there was this tree that was on the border of like mine and my neighbor's property. And I like climbed the tree and then kind of went around the backside of the tree and was like holding onto a branch above myself with my feet kind of straddling the tree. And the branch I was holding just fucking snapped. And I went, no. Fell right onto my back, probably from like at least, it must have been 20 feet up, or like it had to have been at least 20 feet up because I knocked the fucking wind out of myself.
Oh, dude, I used to be crazy climbing trees when I was like a teenager. I would,
Right? What happened to that?
my grandparents lived right, I mean, in that countryside. There's like these giant trees they planted, and then like 20 years later they grew into these huge giant things. So I always knew them there when I first went over there. They were already planted and grown. So I remember climbing one, and I'm like jumping on the branches and stuff, and then you hear one snap, and you'd look
Yep.
over, and then like you're good. Like, you know what I mean? You start jumping again. I remember I climbed really high up, and there was a fucking bird's nest up there, dude.
Oh,
And I
wow.
went up there, and as soon as I put my hand up, I hear like the flapping of wings, like that. That scared the shit out of me. I let go, and I freaking went back, hit a branch on my back, and then it like knocked me forward. Went
Oh,
face first straight onto those little monkey ball things, the
like a
sharp
fucking
little
plinko
pokers.
going down.
Dude, those monkey ball things, the sharp little pokers, I hit hand first on those, and then I'm like, that was the biggest pain. Like, I was like, I don't care about the freaking tree cracking my tailbone. This hurts the most.
It's the little spike balls going in.
You're freaking tossing them at people trying to get them hit. I remember when snow would come and be out in the yard, we would look for those things to put in the snowball to freaking make it better. And, you always look for like a chunk of ice to throw at somebody. And the next thing you know, somebody loses an eye.
We were always throwing snowballs at cars. That was our thing. So like in upstate New York, like we're far enough outside of the city that we weren't like, considered like city kids. We were more rural. So yeah, we were on the trails throwing snowballs at cars, specifically cop cars, because we think it was funny to be on a cliff like 50 feet above the road and you could hit them and they can see you, but they can't even get you. They're going to have to like run up a trail in 3 feet of snow to fucking come chase your ass for hitting their car with a snowball. So that's the fucking antics that we would get up to as
I
kids.
had that one time I did that with, like, we would always do the classic, like with the rope, you would like sit there and fake pull it, and then the cars would stop. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And but they're probably just laughing at you, like, look at these people. But then, like, I remember it was nighttime, and it was like we were throwing snowballs at cars. The first time ever I had done that, and my buddy, there's always that one guy that goes all out and grabs one that's like 10 times the size of a normal one.
It's like, bro, that's a rock. That's not snow.
Grandma throws it like under the legs type and throws it up like that, and it
Yep.
just hits this car's windshield, and you heard glass, and you're
Yep.
like, and I've never like the air went silent. I booked it and hauled ass. This person turned down our street, started going all back and forth, screaming, "You motherfuckers!" I'm like running through trees and shit. I get back into my house, just run right into my room, shut the door, lock it, turn off the lights, slip into PJs, act like I'm sleeping in the bed. My freaking family's like, "Dad, what the fuck did just happen? Did he have to shit? He just ran through the house tearing my ass."
That kind of thing happened, but we ended up getting caught. It was actually me and my my co-host from the podcast, because we grew up together in the same town, and we were always getting into antics together. We were throwing snowballs at cars near my house one time. It was nice because across town there was a nice spot that we knew where, like I told you before, there were cliffs that you could be on, so it gives you enough space between you and your target that there's no issue. Doing it from near my house, you could pretty much just run straight up the hill at where we were. So we heard a car coming around, and we all like loaded up. There were 4 of us there that night. We all loaded up with the snowball, let them rip. And then as soon as we heard like, do, 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 we like hitting the car, we saw lights go on, and we're like, fuck, it's a cop. So we all start booking it into the woods. I learned that you're better off running and then stopping, because they'll run past you. And keep chasing everyone else. So I dropped by a tree and just put my hood over my head and sat by the trunk of the tree and watched the cop run right past me.
You probably didn't see it, dude. That's what he's like. Or they always like the one like new cop that's trying to chase like the main guy. Like, I'm gonna get the motherfucker that's the hardest to get because he's got the most to hide.
They ended up getting 2 of my friends, and so I was running essentially third in line. 2 of my friends kept going. I dropped down, sat by the tree. The last friend of the group, I saw him passing by me. I grabbed him, pulled him down to sit next to me. We watched 2 of our friends get arrested and then be paraded literally like 15 feet to the left of us while they were going like this with flashlights. Fucking walked right past us. We didn't get away with it though, because they knew we all hung out together, and it was literally right near my house.
Tell me where he is. I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I've known him for 20 years. I still don't know his name.
Yeah. So I of course, we made it back to my house, but then like I was too stupid to change my fucking jeans. And when the cops showed up, they were like, "Yeah, your pants are like completely soaked, probably from you being out in the snow, I'm guessing."
We
It's
used to do
all right,
that.
Batman.
We used to do the ding dong ditch at like when we go camping, and I remember we did it one time. We went to a motocross race and went camping. I've talked about this guy before. Is it's this kid? He's a little bit younger than me. His name's Dean, but his dad was a professional motocross racer, and so was his kid. Was getting like rising up the ranks, learning it a little bit. I remember like the first time riding a dirt bike, that whole part, like you get the whiskey throttle where like you're falling off and you hit the throttle even harder and you start
to
going.
try and get grip.
Yeah, so I mean, I took it pretty carefully, but my buddy, he's born on the same day as me, but a year in front of me, and so he went first. Freaking, you know how they have the little post fence, the little wood parts, and there's like a line of string so you don't cross it or something.
Right.
He goes freaking crotch off the back of the dirt bike, holding onto it like Supermaning it, and just going. It's still going. Hits the string on his throat, breaks the fence out of the thing, wraps around into the bike, making all this like braking noise.
Yeah.
So I see that happen. I'm like, well, fuck me. I have never rode a dirt bike before. He's like, just take it easy. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
so I'm
like
going
little at a time.
freaking like all nice and 2 miles an hour, like a grandma going around inside Walmart or some shit, going around the track and everything. And then I lean too much to one side and the fucking thing falls over. And he's like, I was doing it cautiously, but we went ding dong ditching in the trailer park and there was snow. And they cleared a lot of it off the track so you could still race and everything. But I remember we ding dong ditched. We would run and, we would hit it, whatever, knock on their camper, and then we'd run off. And some of them, like the RVs, had the the doorbell or something. And I remember doing that, and they tracked our fucking snow prints back to my freaking campsite. And we thought about that too. We would try and cross over our tracks like it was somebody else, or go to the bathrooms and make it look like it was somebody. No, they're like, you're the only ones here that are around 15, 14 years old, so we know it's you guys. And it's like, damn. My dad was just like, come on, dude, I'm trying to enjoy fucking bonfire right now, and you're freaking
Yeah,
out
right.
there playing flip-de-doo with the
Causing
freaking
trouble
pool
with the
paddle.
neighbors. So how's your area with all the like virus
No
shit? Are
toilet
you?
paper.
Yeah, that's it.
Lockdown, all that type of good stuff. Look, I've worked out every single day for 7 years, and they closed down the gyms. So I do a home workout, but I also have the key to my gym. So it's also like I saw somebody put up a picture. It's uh what is it? Rolf from Ed, and Eddie,
Yeah.
and it says when the cops catch you in the gym when it's locked down because you have a key, and then it's Rolf inside like a building and there's police lights and he's lit up and he's like, "You caught me, fuck boy." And it was so funny, but like that's me. Like I'll be at 2 o'clock in the morning at my gym or something,
Yeah.
and then like I have to sit there and look out the window like, "Are they someone fucking coming right now?"
Well, I mean, I was thinking about that because all the gyms in my area are closed as well. And if you're in there by yourself or like,
It
very
technically
little
counts as
social
private.
distance.
It's technically counts as a private therapy session. I've actually talked to a couple places about
Nice.
getting a letter of recommendation saying that I need that because that is a
Right.
stress relief for me. I do suffer from antidepressant and all that,
Yep.
or just depression. Antidepressant would be the opposite. But the gym workouts, I've done it every day for 7 years and haven't missed a day, and it was not going to stop for coronavirus. It's just not
Right.
going to happen. I just don't feel right without it, and I've gotten try to get letters expressed that way, but they just look at it like it's a if you let one pass and they all pass. But if it's technically considered physical therapy by working out or therapeutic, it counts.
Right.
But then someone found a loophole and was like, that means I can golf because that's therapy. And then that throws your whole fucking thing out of whack. And you're like, golfing's not a legit, you cannot golf for a couple
Yeah.
days. That's
That's not
fine.
that's not doing like actual. I mean, like I could say like, okay, mentally I could see how golf would be relaxing, therefore therapeutic, but to say that it's actually therapy, like physical therapy, yeah, no. A lot of these precautions, it's cool. It's good to see that people are starting to take this shit seriously because like my girlfriend has family in Italy and that shit got hit real bad. It's like fucking real serious over there. So I'm happy to see that we're starting to take it seriously. I know we're supposedly a few weeks behind Italy and shit. But it's crazy how disruptive this has been to literally everyone's lives.
It's just got to run its course, man. That's what I keep
Yeah.
telling everybody.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
it's
a boom for podcasting, but I have noticed that download numbers have dropped a little bit
it's
because
you know
I
why that
think
is,
no
right?
one's on their commute, right?
That's what it is. The commute to work is where you see a lot of people listening to podcasts. Now it's like you're home with your family. You know how hard it is to listen to a podcast when they're like, and then I fuck this chick. And then you're like,
Yeah, you
wait,
can't hear me screaming dick and poop while
yeah,
like you got your fucking kids running around asking to watch fucking Peppa.
Peppa the pig. Good God. Well, I mean, it's crazy times we're living in, like I said, but I got hit by a jet ski. It was my near death experience. And then I had one when I was very little. It lasts 2 fucking weeks, this train of thinking will be, or I'll be changed people for 2 weeks after it's over. We will revert right back to old ways. It's just it's
That's
sadly
human
that's the
nature.
nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just we get too comfortable with things. And that's fine. I mean, I was the same way. When I got hit by a jet ski for 2 weeks afterwards, I was like, life is so grand and beautiful. I love everything about it. The ladybugs. Oh my God, how many spots do you have? And then that third week, I was just like, "What's for fucking dinner? Chipotle? Like that shit gives me gas. Like
If
I'm
you want
not."
to wonder about the spots on a ladybug, you don't have to get hit by a jet ski, man. I got a guy with shrooms that could help you out, you know?
Felt like I was on shrooms. I was enjoying everything. I guess it helps me slow down too a little bit. Like one thing I
Yeah.
notice about weed that I always give the praise to is that it gives you another perspective on life. That once you do it once, you can never undo it. Like shows you that there's detail you're missing out on in your everyday life. I started noticing I was taking things really like this. I have a wood table that my computer sits on for the podcast, and I'm like rubbing the table right now, and like the cracks, the creases where my buddy was just carving a knife into it at the time he was on my podcast for like an hour. Those are memories that are soaked into this table, like stained into objects. And this is a high thought for you. So when you pull up a seashell and you put it to your ear and you can hear the ocean,
Yeah.
is that because the memory of the ocean is stained inside of the shell, or is it just an echo that's reverberating inside of the shell? High thought.
I like it. I'm not even going to answer because I don't want to ruin the mystery of it all.
Same thing with sleep. So I don't sleep at all, and my buddy sleeps with his eyes open. So I started studying all about sleep. I started going into what nightmares are, what type of syndromes are, what the hypnic jerk is, where you like You fall, feel like yeah. So I thought of a theory. It's not true, obviously, but it's a cool idea to kind of entertain. All right. So rapid eye movement. So
Yep.
when your eyelids are shut, your eyes are moving around like crazy. Imagine if that is a
Named after the band REM, right?
I guess so, maybe. I don't know. But if with like the rapid eye movement, when you're sleeping, that rapid eye movement is your brain searching for an alternate doorway, like an alternate universe. They always have a doorway you open up and it's like a parallel universe.
Yep.
That's your dream. And then when you experience a hypnic jerk is because your spirit was transferring into that one, and that's what woke you up. And that's what was my little theory on it. And everyone since is like, holy shit, like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting thought. And I'm all about exploring ideas because, like, I mean, ideas are just, that's it's part of the conversation, and that's how you kind of get from one place to another. Um, with I don't know, like I've more recently in the past few years gone through a bit of a like questioning of a lot of like religion and reality and that kind of stuff. And I've ended up at a lot of nihilistic points where it's just sort of like,
I've been there, dude. You don't have to explain it. I mean, I've seen a butterfly fly across a road when I was driving one time, and it just get missed by a car, and I was like, "Wow!" Like, we're just like that butterfly, just barely getting missed by that car, and it was a deep
dude.
thing. And then I realized that butterfly could have been hit by that fucking car. Would have had a totally different outlook on life. So then I just completely went back to normal.
But I mean, like, even the existential dread that we're just on a fucking rock spinning through space, and at any one moment, like a star could detonate, or like a piece of space junk could fucking fall and crash into us, or, who knows what? Our existence could just blink out.
We're
This
giant,
could all be a
basically water balloons.
simulation.
We're giant water balloons, dude. That's what
Yeah.
deja vu is. It's a glitch in the simulation. It just repeats it. You're like, oh shit, I've seen that happen before.
And then but then those are the thoughts that I get while I'm like literally like driving to work, and I'm like, shit, I'm like gonna be 5 minutes late to my shift. And also the world, it might end at any point in fucking time. So
I mean,
I
there was
had,
a point I think last year, Jupiter, or was it Jupiter, or either Jupiter, I think whatever one is right in front of us, actually saved us from a meteor.
yes, actually, it's probably Jupiter. That's the one thing I say. If we're gonna pray to anything, it should be Jupiter, because it's saving us from a shit ton of space rocks hitting
Yeah,
us.
there was one about to hit us around Halloween or something that was going to level this Earth like Armageddon, and it just freaking Jupiter's gravitational pull sucked it up for us, and it was
Whoop.
like, yeah, like completely went around us. I'm like, shit happens so much that the fact that we're still here, it makes me think of alternate universes, like what happens if JFK lived, or what
Yeah.
happens if something happened, like where would we be now, like some Doc Brown Back to the Future shit.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's probably like the least, I don't even want to say it this way, but like the least realistic way that I have of thinking in terms of like parallel universes and shit like that. Not that I think I can like physically jump like we're going back to the future, but like we exist in a timeline, obviously. Like that's undeniable. Like that's the A statement that we have. We are on some sort of timeline here. Are there others? Could it be altered in some way?
Have you?
That's
That's a legit scientific theory. What you just said. It's I actually did a podcast before when I was
is it
doing Out of the Blank.
string or M theory? One of
Yeah,
those two?
it's very, very close. But when I was doing Out of the Blank, I did specific topics, and it was a spinoff podcast called Fill in the Blank. There's probably 70 episodes, and I have like 100 on my computer. I would look up a certain article, find a bunch of information on it. Could be cryptid. I learned all about 19th century Victorian surgery because I would just ask
Oh,
my
wow.
buddies, "What are you interested in?" And my buddy's like, "19th century Victorian surgery." I'm like, "What the fuck? You could have said fucking Slurpees," which we did a
Yeah, right.
podcast on.
Nice.
We did my cousin, he's my long lost cousin. He was one of the sons of my uncle, that he ended up passing away when he was like 20 something of cancer, and we didn't know he had a kid, so that's why he's my long lost cousin. But he's like 30 years old or something, and he spent this past summer with us, and he was living with me, and we started doing a podcast, and he was like, "Give me the theories of time." And I was like, "What?" So I looked up the A theory, the B theory, and the C theory. And the B theory is like, I think the one I believe in the most is because it's like the past has happened, so it's not happening anymore. The present is happening, and the future is also still happening. And I was thinking about it, I was like, does that mean that like the War of 1812 is going on right now, which is a theory, which is like the past is happening right now? Is like, could it be in an alternate universe that there's a freaking JFK? Is the day he got assassinated? It's happening right at the same time as we're in this universe in terms of
Right, like
some wicked.
times can be essentially shifted
Then your fucking
against each
eyes
other.
goes cross-wide, and then you fucking don't know where you're going.
Right. But then like it's the craziness of the idea of like, okay, free will and anything. Like I could end recording right with you right now, jump through my fucking bedroom window and run into traffic. I'm not gonna do that, but wouldn't that alter like the fucking timeline in
That
some
goes
way?
back to the beginning of our podcast when I mentioned the salvia trip with that dude that I'm going to send you the episode of.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
There's a video on YouTube. Daniel Tosh actually got flagged for it because he was put it on his show and they realized what happened. The dude got super high and he's just sitting on a couch with his girlfriend.
Oh, that's where he goes out the window. I've
and he
seen that
jumps
one.
out the fucking window. Like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, right. But that's just the thing. I mean, so that's like a small thing. Obviously, that wouldn't affect much. But then you go back to like say JFK being assassinated, or the during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The I don't know if you're familiar with the story of the nuclear submarine that almost fucking launched nukes. That it was like one dude's call to be like, nah, like
Are you
that
talking
would
about
have.
Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night, or are you talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis?
So this was part of the Cuban Missile Crisis. I think it was a Russian sub and they lost like communication or something like that. There was some sort of breakdown in protocol where they like essentially had authority to launch a nuke, but it was the dude on the sub who was like made the call like don't fucking do it.
Yeah. I don't. You should look up Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night, but it was 6 months before Pearl Harbor when we won and everything. Like we
Yeah.
bombed and we won the war. They had a planned attack to launch a submarine filled with 6 bombs on the coast of San Francisco, filled with 150 million fleas that were filled with bubonic plague, which
Holy
would,
shit.
if you've ever tried to kill a flea
Oh my God.
before, that's not fucking easy.
Oh
So
yeah,
we
I went
all
through
would have
that a
been
few years
infected.
ago with my cats. It's
Yeah.
fucking it drives you insane, and then throwing plague on top of that.
Like if you look up, I always tell people like all this stuff I always talk about. I listened to the podcast when it came out with Joe Rogan and Alex Jones called Alex Jones Returns. 3 hours
the
of that.
9/11 episode.
It's a
It was
bunch of stuff in
episode
one.
911. I
No,
think is when
this
you had
one's
him
like
on.
1046. After they had this
Oh,
long
okay.
argument, he comes back on for 3 hours and starts talking about Area 51 and all this stuff.
Okay, yep.
He says a lot of shit. And like it's too much to where you're like, what this guy's a madman. I said that at first too, but I work out at 2 o'clock in the morning and I listen to probably a length of a Joe Rogan podcast while I work out. So I'm sitting there listening and I started pausing everything he was saying every 10 minutes and I would look up all the information he was saying. The whole thing he said about the whole space program being invented by Nazis, 100%
yeah.
true. You can
Oh,
look it
yeah.
up. Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night, Unit 731, he mentions, those were all true things. It got me really interested into government experiments and all these other types of projects that we did.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes down a long rabbit hole. I've done a lot of podcasts on it. And I think like it's nice to know these things. Like I feel like with Area 51, how that was getting so big and everyone else, like it would be so easy if the government was like, sign this waiver, whatever you see in there, it's not our liability if you go batshit nuts because we're trying to hide it from you. If you want to see it, go see it. $20 a head, bam, there you go. Next thing you know, people would come out like, I knew it. There's fucking Christopher Walken back there. Or someone would be like, I can't believe that happened. It's like, we fucking warned you.
Now, what do you think in terms of like, say you had to put down because it almost like, first off, do you believe that we have been visited by things that were not from this planet?
I believe at one point probably it might have happened that something might have came down. Do I think it's like what we always say, the little green men and stuff? No, but I'm open to all ideas. I mean, technically we all came from Mars. Apparently, my buddy
I heard
tossed
of that theory.
my
Yeah,
buddy tossed that theory out at me, and I always stay open minded to everything.
yeah.
I'm never
And I guess
finalizing a
for
point.
anyone not familiar with that, it's the idea that if there was life on Mars and that there's life on Earth, that it's more likely that they were connected in some way rather than spawning simultaneously. You know,
His
next to each
idea
other.
was that a meteor hit Mars and the particles that flew from Mars somehow got sucked up into our atmosphere, and that's what we evolved from, like the game Spore.
Yeah.
That just helped our evolution. And I was like, that could be plausible. I mean, I don't see there probably could be flaws in it, but at the same time, people think flat Earth is real, and it's like, who's to know for 100% sure? The flat Earth one definitely seems like a fucking load of horse shit, but the
Yeah,
other
just
ones, like,
based on experiments, I wouldn't give the flat Earth one too much credence, I guess.
Hollow Earth won this too. I mean, everyone sits there and says like Hitler's the worst person in humankind. I was like, was he? I mean, he had an idea. I'm not saying I'm pro him. I mean, Lahayim, Jewish guy right
Are
over
you
here.
saying that bad people can have good ideas, essentially?
I'm saying that he was definitely wrong in what he did, but
Yeah.
his train of thought was the old Norwegian type thing where he was thinking about making an elite race, which is what we've kind of tried to do now by trying
Yeah,
to
because
do
he was into all
supplements.
the occult shit
He
too. I mean,
believed
there's
that you could breed out all like it's if you ever play The Walking Dead, the video game with Lee Everett, and he goes by that community and it's only the strong will survive. They kick out all the weak. That's what he was trying to do, was trying to breed out and it makes superior genetics.
See, what he didn't understand was recessive genes.
Well, we've done the same thing with dogs, bulldogs. They're the reason if you hear the word purebred means they're inbred, means they don't let them bleed out of or breed out of their bloodline. We could save the bulldog's life if we just let it breed with another type of dog and it would fix the nasal problem. But we like the way it looks, so we let the dog suffer.
Well,
we've done the same thing.
Well, now it's looks, but and a lot of it was utility back in the day. You know, the ratting dogs, the bulldogs were actually to rile up fucking bulls. They were bred for aggression and all that.
You just gave me a good idea for someone I got to get on my podcast.
A dog breeder?
No, I've had one, but I'm trying to get a luchador or one of those matadors on here. That's one I've talked to everybody. I think not every person, but every like type of job you think of. I think the longest time I was trying to get a funeral director on, and then in one day I got 2 of them on. I was like, holy shit, it lines up perfectly.
You didn't talk to a guy named Victor, did you?
Victor who?
He's out of Florida. He's actually he did a Dexter podcast and he did a 6 Feet Under podcast, and in his day job he is a I believe
mortician.
A director of some capacity.
I have not talked to him, but I would definitely talk to him.
Yeah, I can definitely get you his I'm
in to talk to everybody, but I always want to make sure, like, just so you know, I'm not going to try and talk about you for the whole entire podcast. It is straight up conversation like we've had. Like you told me before, which made me ask questions about your podcast about having a script and stuff. Because you're like, any scripted questions I should know? And I'm like, the name says it all. Because like, it comes off as a dick response, but trust me, it's not intended.
I didn't take it that way. I didn't take it that way. When you said that, I definitely took it more as like it's probably closer to like what myself and Matt do with our guest episodes.
That's what I try and tell people. Like I look up an episode because I can't explain it in words. I say it's just conversation. Like, what's the line of questions? I'm like, what's the topic? Anything I should know in particular? I'm like, just look it up, brother. It's I don't promote myself at all. I literally, where can we find you? Look it up out of the blank. If you want to find it, you'll find it.
There you go.
And now plug yourself, sir, because we're going to wrap this sucker up.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me at Landers the Plane on pretty much everything. Xbox, if you want to get at me on there, that's also my name. You can listen to me on American Slacker podcast with my co-host Matt Gertz. New episodes every Wednesday. You can find it at aspodcast.com. We're on all of the Spotify, iTunes, all that fun shit. We also have a Patreon. If you'd like to support the show and see it kind of grow and become something a little bit bigger, we always appreciate support on that.
I only had one person out of all my podcasts drop an Etsy page on me. I was like, fuck. Never heard anybody talk. Yo, let me see that Pinterest.
You know, like get at my OnlyFans at Jesse. No.
Like toss out a Farmers Only or some Jewish meat.com. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.